Hey everyone, Rob from Southgate Media Group here. Before we get started with this podcast, we have a quick message. If this is your first time checking out the show, we love that you found us and we really hope you enjoy it. What we have to say is for the subscribers. If you enjoy our shows, would you please donate to help keep these going? We don't want to have to put traditional ads on these shows, but this does cost money. So we really do rely heavily on donations. To make a donation to the show, please go to our website, www.southgatemediagroup.com. Go to the page for the show, and in the upper right-hand corner is a donate button. It takes you right to PayPal, and you can donate whatever amount you want. Thanks a lot for listening, everybody. And now, on with the show.
Hi, this is Ginger Pauley, and you're listening to Primatech Files.
Hey, Primatech peeps. Welcome back to the Primatech Files, a Southgate Media Group podcast dedicated to all things Heroes Prime and Heroes Reborn related things. I am Lilith, and of course, on the hunt for enhanced humans with me, as always, is...
It's me, Ricky. Hello.
And today we have another special guest for an interview. She is Mama Shaw, a.k.a. Ginger Pauley.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for coming
on. Yeah.
So do you want to let our audience know a little bit about yourself before we launch into our scathing expose? Just kidding.
Of course. I'm Ginger Pauley, and I'm otherwise known as the Vintage Girl. And what's funny is I seem to get a lot of parts because I know how to dress vintage, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. And I have a band in Los Angeles called Ginger and the Hoosier Daddies, and it's a vintage band, 1920s through 1940s music. And I am currently pitching a show to networks about vintage America.
Yeah.
And if you go on YouTube, you can check that out, Vintage America with Ginger, and if that's kind of an idea of what the show is about. So I live kind of a vintage, not a vintage life, but I get a lot of vintage opportunities, and I just kind of fell into this.
Nice.
And what's funny about this is the reason that I got the part on Heroes was because I was the one that came dressed correctly.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, it's very interesting.
Let's start off with Heroes first. So, how were you a fan of the show prior to auditioning for it?
Actually, I have something to tell you that not a lot of people know.
Oh.
I worked on the show from the very beginning.
Oh.
I was brought in after they filmed the first episode. Now, this was before it aired. And I actually worked on, let me see, I'm pulling up my notes here. I actually worked on One Giant Leap, which was the second episode. I was brought in as a photo double, and they ended up using me as a stand-in as well. So I was a photo double for Eden, the character.
Oh,
Eden,
nice.
in One Giant Leap. It's the scene where she's going through the diary with Mohinder. Those are my hands.
Oh.
And then I also stood in for Hayden Pantier when she was off to lunch or something, and the episode where she almost gets raped by the football player.
Oh.
And the piece of wood goes into her neck. I was lying on a log for a while while Hayden was doing something else. And then I believe it's the same episode. The character of Audrey. She was the officer with Matt
Yes.
Portman when they're being chased by Siler.
Oh, yes.
He makes her hold a gun to her own head.
The
scene where the gun is to her head, that's my hand.
Oh.
In my hand, to my own head. So I did a lot of stuff for the second unit, working with the second unit director. And I guess since my face wasn't seen and nobody really knew, who I was, when I got the call to audition and come back, nobody had really recognized me as doing anything before.
Oh.
So because I had shot the first, the second episode, and I actually got to see them filming the next episode, Collision. where Peter and Hero are in the subway.
Yeah.
When it's the evolved Hero.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is amazing. This is a great show. This is going to be fantastic, because there was all this stuff going on. And I mean, I figured they were shooting quickly, because they're shooting 2 episodes at a time, and I just thought, this is going to be amazing, and I talked to the hair and makeup people and the wardrobe people, and they all loved the show and the characters and the people on the show. And I thought, this is going to be amazing. So I was right there with all of you from the beginning going, this is going to be really cool, because I also knew it was coming up.
Oh, nice.
So I was very into it from the beginning.
Yeah, that the scene you talked about with Future Hero was exactly the point that I became invested in the show as well. I think I say this every interview we have, but that is the moment where it stopped being like a one. I had to see what was happening on every week. But yeah, let's go on to. Did you have a favourite character or someone? Obviously, apart from Mama Shaw, but did you have a favourite character in the show that you kind of liked to watch and you were waiting for every week to see what would happen to them?
Nathan was my favourite.
Oh,
and nice. I was so
another Nathan.
Disappointed. I was so disappointed when they killed him off. I was just like, no, maybe they'll bring him back, and when they bring him back, with all of you, I was like, no, that can't be, and then I read up on the actor, and he had something else going on. I was like, got it, So yeah, that was highly disappointing for me. When they killed him off, they lost me. I was like, oh no, it's terrible. What a terrible show. No, I'm just kidding. I wasn't that bad, but I was very disappointed when they let him go.
Yeah, it took me like my second rewatch to actually appreciate Nathan as a character. I think obviously in the first one I was just very, oh man, what a villain. But yeah, on my second watch, I was like, no, actually, he's a lot better than I thought he was. So yeah, we'll move on to favourite season. Do you have a particular favourite season of Heroes?
I think 1 and 2 are my favorite.
Yeah.
And leading up to Nathan getting killed, after he got killed, I wasn't as faithful after that. But when I got the call to come and audition, of course I had to do my homework real quick, and I went back and watched everything that I had missed and anything that I had missed, So yeah, 1 and 2 definitely, when it started getting into the circus stuff, I was kind of lost.
Fair enough. So you tell us that you got the call to come in for the audition. What was the actual audition process like? If
It was kind of unusual because usually this doesn't happen this way, but I was called directly to the set. And the night before, and the casting director told me, this is for Heroes, this is for Christine Rose's mother in the 1960s. And I went, got it. I'm like, yeah, I got this. I can do this, So when I got to the set, there were 4 other girls. And I don't know if any of them were fans of the show, if they watched the show. I felt like I had an in because I knew the show and I knew exactly what they wanted. I came in a 1960s suit, 1960s blue suit, hair done 60s, everything. And, of course, I think it was the show Mad Men had just started. So, of course, these girls were dressed 50s or, and I thought, nope. So they put us in a lineup, and the director, Adam Armas, am I pronouncing his name right? I think I am. He picked me out of the lineup.
Nice.
And he pulled me to the side and he said, can you do an audition? And I said, yeah. And I said, what do you want? And he actually made me reenact a scene with a crew guy. And he explained to me. He said, no, this is what's happening in this episode. It's kind of a camp, where people with special abilities are taken, and you're told that it's going to be like a spa weekend, and it's going to be this vacation and all this, and it's kind of not like that. It's you're going to be separated away from your kids, but you want your kids to be encouraged and not feel afraid. And your 2 little girls are afraid because they're separating you. So pretend like this crew guy is your daughter. and encourage him and explain to him that it's going to be okay. We're in the next building right over here. It's going to be lots of popcorn and movies and fun, So he kind of acted like Alice would act, okay, and I kind of crying, and I hugged him and I said it's okay, and he said great, okay, you got the part, send everybody else home, and we started shooting then.
Oh.
Like that day. And
Wow.
I know, I know. They were shooting fast, and they were shooting really quickly. We shot a lot of family photos, like family stills and family photos that unfortunately have been lost.
Oh.
I've tried to get a hold of them, and they're just gone.
Oh.
I know. And then they took us out to Coyote Sands on a different day, and we shot the Coyote Sands scene.
Nice.
And it was rough. It was raining. It was freezing. There were probably 100 extras. It was really tough. It was a really tough day out there, because it's in the middle of nowhere, and desert-like, and it was tough. It was a rough day.
Where'd you guys film Coyote Sands? What place stood in for Coyote Sands?
It's north of Los Angeles and east. So if you go towards Ventura and then you go east, it was like out in the middle of nowhere. They bust us up.
So like where they do Burning Man and stuff, I was thinking.
I think it's a little more north than that. I think it's a little more north. There's a big area up there that Disney owns called the Disney Ranch, and it was kind of near there. Disney shoots there. They used to shoot Little House on the Prairie out there, and a lot of films and stuff out there. Anyway, yeah, it was tough. We shot a lot like the scene was where the doctors walking us through the tent, through the camp, and telling us this is what we're going to do, and enjoy your stay here, and anything you want, and and then I did the scene with the girls where I say goodbye to them, and everything's okay, and we'll be right over here, and they cut all of it. So yeah, I was like, and also the fella who played Mr. Shaw, oh boy, Zachary, what's his last name? Anyway, he had a whole scene where the little girl Alice starts going crazy with the weather and everything, and they try to calm her down, and they grab her, and Daddy Shaw steps in and starts blowing things up with his hands, like throwing people across the space and everything, and his stuff was cut too. So
I vaguely remember there was a little bit of him. I think in here
it's like 5 seconds.
Yeah, on the Heroes Wiki, they says he had like seismic blasts, and he throws Chandra Suresh across the way. So you said that you pretty much just went straight into the scene and starting work straight away. Did they give you much background on the character? And if so, do you remember any of the notes that they gave you, whether any of the background or whatnot, or whether or not Mama Shaw had any powers, or even a name for Mama Shaw?
No, they didn't give me anything.
Oh.
All I could decipher was, getting the script, of course, and watching what the girls were doing and the other scenes that were going on when I could, to kind of get an idea of, okay, what else else might be cut. So yeah, there wasn't much. I was really surprised. On the Heroes Wiki, when people asked, they just kind of said, "Oh, yeah, no, we don't know." So it was like, But it was interesting when I went to wardrobe and got my costume, and I asked them, I said, "Is there any chance? Do you think there's any chance that they might do another episode like this, where they go back, or where they do a flashback to the Shaw family or the 60s or something?" And even the costumer said, "We highly doubt it because it's expensive." It was one thing to do 1961, because they had this totally remote location out in the desert where they built a really cheap set. It's really expensive to hire vintage cars and get a vintage location and costume everybody vintage. I mean, it costs a lot of money. So they said, no, probably not unless we get a lot more money, which probably isn't going to happen. You know, and this was later in the season and, you know, in the show. So they were kind of just like, yeah, we doubt it.
They did slightly go back, but they just kept it all to a room in season 4, I believe, with Chandra just talking to camera. But on season 4, a lot of the extras in the carnival, they made up their own like backstories and stuff for their characters because they weren't given a lot. Did you have your do you have your own personal vision of Mama Shaw, like whether it be a name or a power or just what kind of backstory you kind of had in your mind as you were going through the scenes?
I kind of did. Yeah, I kind of did. Just because I did so much research on what Christine did with her role and watching her throughout, you know, and me personally, I've always had the weirdest, strangest dreams and deja vu, you know, and I thought, well, how perfect, you know, how perfect that her mother should be a lot like her.
Yeah. Okay. Did you, in your mind, do you have a name for Mama Shaw, or are we just going to stick with Mrs. Mama / Mama Shaw?
I guess so. Yeah, just stick with Mama
That's
Shaw or
fine.
Mrs. Shaw. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what they originally would have called her. It was kind of interesting when I moved. I had to move in 2010, and the apartment that I moved to, the knocker on the door said the Bennett family.
Oh wow!
And I went,
with 1 T or 2?
Yeah.
yeah. No, this was after the show.
Yeah.
This was after the show, and after I'd already done the part and everything, and I thought, well, this has got to be a sign.
Yeah.
You know, okay, I guess I'm in the right place. I'm doing the right thing.
Next up, let's go on to you, Ginger, and in general. So you've got a lot of feathers in your cap. So, you know, you're a singer, actress, dancer, and now hopefully a host / presenter. Do you have a favorite medium that you like to work in?
I like to have a variety in my life. I think if I were doing one thing all the time, I would get bored.
No.
You know, it's fun to be able to lead a band, and it's fun to be able to do TV, and then it's fun to be able to do a film, and, you know, or theater or whatever. You know, I feel like I've had a lot of success just by saying yes to the funny things that may fall in my lap. You know, I think if I didn't have things just kind of happen for me, or people suggest things to me and just taking it and running with it, I probably wouldn't be where I am. Because of Heroes, you know, right after I shot Heroes, of course I went online and I found the Heroes Wiki, and the fellow that runs the Heroes Wiki wanted to know, you know, as much information as I do, you know, and I couldn't tell a lot, you know. I could tell everything, but, you know, to be able to get on that site and be a character in the show is like, oh, cool, you know. And then Willow Polson found me.
Yes.
And she's one of the fan club people that started the fan club for Heroes. And they found me and said, do you want to go to Comic-Con with us?
Oh.
And I went, really? I mean, I'm just a little character. She said, yes, we're doing this Heroes thing, and you should come and be part of it. And I was like, okay, sure. And I went, and from there, it's just like all of this has taken off. And, you know, Willow is now my producer for my show. Yeah. And we're working together producing shows, and it's because of Heroes.
How did you come up with the name the Hoosier Daddies? Because I think it's a great name, by the way.
Thank you. No, I'm not from Indiana. But a good friend of mine who encouraged me to start the band went to school in Indiana, so he's a Hoosier. And Hoosiers are kind of 20s, and Daddies is kind of a slang name for 40s, and the music is 20s, 30s, and 40s. So Hoosier Daddies seemed appropriate for the time period and you know, what I wanted to call the band. So.
What instruments do you play, or are you just the band leader, or do you join in?
I'm the band leader, and I'm the band leader and the singer.
Oh, okay. Do you play any instruments by chance? Sorry, I'm a musical person. I play the cello.
That's okay. I used to play the guitar a bit. I haven't in a while just because I've been so busy. But I did a lot in high school, and my great grandfather or my grandfather left me a very rare Martin guitar, and I had a guitar class in my high school, so I took it to school, and my music teacher went, "Is that a Martin? Oh my gosh, that's really rare. You shouldn't bring that to school." So I had to get an alternate, obviously. I had to go out and buy an alternate guitar, a cheapy one. But that kind of started my interest in music. And so, yeah, a guitar a little bit, but not as much anymore. I do still have my guitar, but I wouldn't be as good as my guys are, as my daddies are in my band to play with a band.
Do you want to tell us about your love for all things vintage and where that got started? And
yeah, it basically came from my family.
Yeah.
My grandparents moved here to California in the 1930s from Oklahoma during the Dust Bowl. The story Grapes of Wrath is pretty much my family.
Wow.
And my mother, my grandma, and my great aunt used to take me to yard sales when I was a kid. And I just kind of learned what was what and how old things were, and I could look at something and go, oh, this looks like the 30s, or this looks like the 20s, oh, this looks like, when is this from? And I had one aunt who would buy furniture, and the other aunt would collect purses, and my other aunt would collect jewelry, and of course my grandma would just pick up anything that looked like I would like it. So I learned really young how to kind of figure out what was what, and I just had a great fascination with history and American history, and I think that's where it came from. I think it's just my family. When I was at a yard sale when I was 10, I picked up a record, a Charleston record, and I was just like, what is this? Oh my gosh, this is great. This is great music, and it just, everything is just kind of, gone from there. I got a job at Universal Studios playing Betty Boop, and there was a band there playing jazz music, and one of the guys in the band was playing music with a 20s band, and they were making a CD. And so he told me, hey, you should try singing with this band. You'd be great at it, because I was singing Betty Boop in the park, And I said, well, tell the band leader to give me a call, if he needs a singer. And like a year went by, and this band leader called me and said, I need a singer for my band. And I went, okay. So I went down to his house and I listened to his CDs, and he said, we have a jazz festival next week in Spokane. Do you want to go? And I said, okay. Sure. And the rest is history. I started singing in his 20s band. He also had a 40s band, and I started singing in the 40s band. And now I have my own band, and I still sing in those bands. So, everything just kind of has fallen into place.
Yeah. And it's always good when everything falls into place and you're working in something that you love, I think. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, that has been our interview with the lovely and captivating Ginger Pauley. We hope you found it entertaining and informative, and we will see you back here next episode. Until then, this is Lilith
and Ricky
signing off.
Download the podcast, save the world.